stay true to yourself.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that should not be up to any of the athletes in the room
Exactly.
to worry about. That should be delegated to a small subcommittee
Oh, yeah.
on the side
Yep.
who can develop contacts at the educational level with people that they can get in touch with, produce a very, very nice
And they
little
can lobby
package of
those people
statistics.
and they can use
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
and that can be done through what you're setting up here.
Yeah.
Just for a comment, Stuart was training, and I came down to train with you at the AIS, remember?
Tell the full story. I know
And
what
he
you're
was not, oh no, we can't have him out there, you know, bad influence, etc., whatever it was. And I went to see, what is his name, John Boltby? I went as
yeah.
Dr. Farmer,
The head of the...
you know, former Olympian, you know, academic, and I went up to see him, took an official, you know, appointment to lobby for Stuart, and then after that they gave it to you. Of course, you know, we can't give him too much. You know, let him use the sports science, let him use the fields, maybe the weight room too, but we don't want to give him too much. But it took me, who I was impartial, you know, but I was, at that particular time, I was influential in that specific issue, and I think I said I was coaching you, you know, trying to help you. And so I was sort of, and I think that's the point that you're making.
You
We
make
need
a-
to have,
Make a subcommittee of individuals who can basically, and I'll put my hand up there because like I said, I'm through the teaching associations, I should be able to find every Minister of Education in the state who their personal secretary is, right? So basically make a subcommittee in that area, a group of people who've got contacts with the Australian Athletics Association on one level, because that's a very, very large part of our sport, but by and large also the education department, which basically runs the state schools and all the other aspects as well.
you mentioned yesterday, I can't remember who mentioned yesterday, it was about Harold Connolly, who lobbied, and now they got junior sport, junior throwing, now they're trying to get it passed. He's been trying to do that in the United States for about 30 years. And I think the way Harold was doing it was through people who were important. It's not how you go, it's who you know. And you guys who are the athletes, you shouldn't even have to worry about it. Your job is just to go out there and throw and perform. But you need to have people, and there may be, that's another part, and I didn't mention this, but we talked about it yesterday, having influential people who might have been hammer throwers, who know people who are in important positions. You get them on side, and they can help. And it may not be noticeable, but they can have a word to people in their ear, and you'll be surprised what things will happen. But I think that's not a bad point. But the athlete shouldn't have to worry about this. This should be nothing to do with that. Even the coaches.
I guess my message to the athlete is that, you know, it's not always going to go your way, and don't lose heart. One of my driving factors was, well, I'll stick it up by throwing them away. You know, so you know, it's that whole thing. Don't, what is it? Expect nothing, don't be disappointed. So if they close the gate on you, you can't get in.
You jump the fence.
Jump the fence. You know.
Yeah, it's always philosophy of apologising later is always easier than trying to get approval.
Actually, when I first started, I was throwing at Sydney Athletic Field. We could only train Sunday mornings and maybe Tuesday afternoons. So my coach, Dr. Tom Mullins, we used to go to the back, jump the fence during the week. We got to know the people, the groundsmen. They didn't care. He'd just go up the back and throw. It's not a problem. But they would never open the gate because they didn't want to be criticized. So I don't know how many fences I've jumped in my time. You know, but you need to have that. You guys need to have your own goals.
Factor into training.
Yeah.
Plyometric session.
Bit of pole vault.
You made the point too that, and I agree with what you're saying in terms of politics, and I know towards the end of my career that was one of the things that probably got in the way too much. And as from an athlete's point of view, it is very frustrating. But I do see changes in terms of there is, I mean, obviously being here, for example, having things like this is a bit of a change. But for example, training in Germany with Mr. Clement, who had already got a lot of 80-metre throws, that was a cornfield. There was a little wooden hut, and he stood in his little hut and looked out the window. And if you threw over 70 metres, you had to tie a bit of pink plastic to your handle so that you could find it amongst the corn. So, you know, and we trained in Adelaide. We were lucky we had Olympic sports, but we were stuck out the back that had been a hammer throwing area for years. when it rained, it was like we had a lake basically for the first 30 metres, and you were always covered in mud. But it doesn't, in that sense, it doesn't matter. Like you go, when you travel overseas, because you come from here and think, oh, we'll go over there, there'll be these fantastic, pristine facilities, and this is not. And people's throwing paddocks, people's throwing cornfields, and you look up on the wall and you think, these are the 80 metre throwers from Germany that have been training here. And you go to the weight room and you think again, like you've been to AIS, and you go to the weight room and you've got these old barbells and dumbbells and weights that look like they've been around for 100 years. And
Got rust on it, there's no
but
mirrors.
these guys are just throwing things, they train their art, it doesn't matter. And so there's some reality there that you've got to realise that nothing is going to be perfect at all. And you just got to make the most of it. And you look around and most of these amateur throwing venues are not pristine. They're pretty ugly looking places, but they produce pretty ugly athletes too, don't they?
I was I've thrown over 70, 75 metres, and Peter and I were still throwing in Sydney on cricket pitches, out of car parks.
Yes.
When Timmy and I were over in Hungary, you've got the top hammer throwers that were on the face of the earth at the time, and the weights were all split and everything, and they had bolts through them, and they were glued together and hanging on, and
Well, that's basically my gym.
there you go.
Hawthorn Weightlifting Club, all the weights they used to split, they used to give them to me. I used to bolt them together. So the majority of my gym equipment is like that. Nobody's given us anything. So somebody made a comment about the gym that we have. It's like Rocky V, when he was training in the barn in Russia. Well, it's like that, but it's the atmosphere. It's basically the heart of. And I've got weights in. I've got a bar which was used in the 1956 Olympics, which was going to be thrown out. I've still got weights from that. So it's not that. In 1981, I was at the World Cup in Italy, and near Ostia, Orlando, he took me to train. It was just like that. It was a rubbish tip. It was a rubbish tip with a bit of bloody slab down there, and he threw 78 metres or whatever it was back then. So. That's not the key. The key is, okay, as a coach, I can tell you things, I can write you a program, but if you haven't got it in your heart and in your mind to want to do it, and really put everything into it, to learn to be able to do it, as I said, we all did things to make ourselves better. Peter went to the USA, I went to Germany, the boys went to Germany, Hungary, because we believed that we wanted to be better, and that was our pathway. Now people come to us, like to me at Ringwood, because Scott and Dale and Ben, and they are the best at the moment. And they see them like going to Germany, coming to us.
They're world-class performers. You've got access to world-class performers, or people who have been world-class performers.
And they don't necessarily have to be hammer throwers. You guys can come and have a look and see how Scott trains, or Dale trains, or it's the same thing. So basically it's the atmosphere of the actual club or the environment that we're in that is the key.
Just another comment along that same line. When I went to the University of Texas at El Paso, we had two coaches, and if you've ever gone to any universities in the US, you don't have lots of specialized coaches. They don't want to pay for them. We had a coach who basically walked across the field. He was a promoter. Then there was another guy who was an alcoholic who basically, he sort of organized the throwers. But we had guys who, 6'5", 6'6", big guys throwing discus, hammer. They thought I was a pole vaulter when I first walked in. We trained, they said, that's your bar over there. It was a dungeon. It was about half as big as here again. It was right next to the textbook area, and this was a major university. But when we got out there and we threw, we trained and we worked with each other. In 1975, when we won the national championship, which is a long time ago, before many of you were born, there was only 2 Americans on the team. The rest were from everywhere in the world. Right? And I think, and then there was a place I went to, which was San Jose, California, where you had Mac Wilkins, you had John Powell, actually going out there training at the same time, even though they disliked each other, Brian Oldfield. You had Aka Sam, you had some people, you guys don't know these names, but these were elite and they were training. There was no coaches. But they had a field and they got there together and they trained every day. okay? And they didn't have any support except what they earned during the year by going around. So it's, you know, we're sitting there going rah, 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 to some of you guys going, oh my God, you know, what about us? You know, but it's really important that you generate together. We compete on the field, but you've got to be together as a group. You've got to have a culture that you develop. And when the Bayer Leverkusen National Training Center, unbelievable environment to go there, you know, and it was electric. But even in Hungary, you go out there with Paulo Nemeth, and he's standing there, or sitting there, and then he's having these people throwing, and those people have been there and know what I'm talking about. Then over there's the other throwers who are throwing on the other side. And it's...
There could be, on those days, up to 50 throwers, hammer throwers, throwing hammer at the one time.
I'll tell you.
What about during school holidays?
That's why
There's hundreds of them.
I'll tell you a quick one. Leading up to the Commonwealth Games in 2006, like Scott winning the discus on the last round, the last row. Okay, 3 years leading up to that, I had Scott, there was Aaron Neighbour, Hicksy, Graham Hicks, and Ben. And basically they all trained with me at one stage or another. But it was the national championships leading up to it. It was the competition that they stimulated at the national championships. And if you have a look at it, Scott actually won 2 of the nationals on either the second last row or the last row. Graham Hicks on one of them was leading. He got so nervous in the last round he caged it. Scott came out, and it was those competitions that to me were the building blocks to him winning at 2006. It wasn't just buddy doing a couple of sessions and whatever. It was, and they all trained together as well at sessions. They were stimulating.
Talk about cultural shift.
Yeah. Where they, like they're still competing against each other, but they still train together, and that was the beauty. The comment about the barn or whatever it was made by. I've done strength and conditioning work for a number of people, tennis players, netballers, basketballers, footballers. Nicole Richardson. I'm not sure whether you guys know anybody know Nicole Richardson at all. She played centre for Australia in netball. Also, she won a bronze medal at the Olympic Games in softball. Leading up to the 2002 Commonwealth Games, she came to me about 18 months before. We knew each other a little bit, and she goes, "Gus, I don't think they're going to put me in the team. They're going to probably drop me. I really need to get fit." So she came and trained with us. How's this? This is a netballer came and trained with my group at our shitty little gym. But she went from, an athlete that was 31 and then basically had done a little bit of work. I dropped, made her drop 7 kilos, put on 5 kilos of muscle, whatnot. Played the best game ever at the grand final gold medal playoff in 2002 Commonwealth Games. It was extra time. But she put it into having to change, go outside the square. And basically you guys have to have an open mind. Don't be just fixed, I'm a hammer thrower. I am going to be a hammer thrower. Open, look, learn from anybody and everybody about competing, about these guys. Ask them, this guy here, he bloody took a bronze medal away from me. Do you know that?
I didn't see you out competing.
Yeah, but buddy, my athlete was going to win that bronze medal. But was I shitty with him because... No, bullshit. He comes out on the last round, the last throw, throws 75-50 and wins the gold medal. And then Philip went out the back over there and finished 4th. So do I hate him?
He brings it up every time he says it.